All right, guys, let's go. So we're on a very, very complicated, not complicated, very involved section here now. On the bottom is 68, top of page 270. So this is where Yakov is going to give the bracha to, Yaakov's going to give the bracha to Yosef's sons. If you take a look, starting on, last time we explained about why, when a parent has to explain to their children, and we also spoke about the idea that when we were talking about the generation gap, that you always, no matter what happens with your kids, and this is just good advice as parents, when I get kids, just make sure your kids always know that the parental love is never compromised. And if your kids don't do and follow exactly the path that you've charted out for them, whatever that path is in life, that doesn't affect the relationship. It affects, you may be a little disappointed, you may be, you wish that things were different, but you're always their parents and they have to know. A big rabbi once told me that the home has to be a warm bird's nest. We'll fix up the room, Chaim, afterwards. You fix up the room and put it back into normal civilized, what do you call it? The home has to be a warm bird's nest. This rabbi once told me that he was, he's a posek. People call him up with questions all the time. So he gets a call on Erev Pesach. He gets a call, Erev Pesach. A young lady calls him up. She says, I'm engaged. I'm a kala. I'm engaged. And I have to meet my groom, my chassan, sometime during Pesach. And I want to know if a certain makeup, like a lipstick or makeup, whatever, is a kosher LePesach, could be used on Pesach. So he gave her the answer, whatever the answer was. Yes, I don't know what the answer was. Okay. About 15 minutes later, his daughter walks in. His daughter herself is a kala. She says, Daddy, did you get a call 15 minutes ago from a kala on the phone? He goes, yeah, how do you know? She goes, it was me. So why did you call me on the phone? He says, listen, I've been asking you for 3 weeks if I could wear this makeup when I got to see my chassan. You keep saying to me, I don't know, I got to look it up, I'll check. But I notice when people call you on the phone, you answer them right away. You give them an answer right away. So I decided I didn't answer, so I called you up on the phone. He told me the story himself. And he said, which is true, because we always treat people outside the home, we're on our best behavior, and we're gentlemen, so we're, outside the home, everybody's wonderful. In the home, your kids have to always come back to the nest. They have to feel the home is a welcoming nest all the time. And the kids may not be doing what you want. Maybe he's working a job that you'd rather he doesn't work, or he's dating a girl that you might not be so thrilled with. Not something she's not terrible, but you prefer something better. Whatever it is, you got to be. Obviously, there are lines. Sometimes parents have to offer an opinion. Parents have to offer an opinion. Not too often though. So that's the rule. In any event, that's what we spoke about last time. And then on page 272 starts the confusion. Vayotze Yosef osami in birka vayishtachel apavarcha. He bows out to his father. Vayikach Yosef, two lines from the top. Vayikach Yosef eshneim es Ephraim b'mino. Yosef takes Ephraim in his right hand. Mismol Yisrael, he's going to be to the left of Yakov. That means if I'm coming towards you, Tyler, I'm coming towards you, and I want to bring 2 kids towards you, the one in my right hand is going to be opposite your left hand. The one in my left hand is going to be towards you, opposite your right hand. So Yosef takes Ephraim in the right hand, who's the younger son, Mismol Yisrael, to the left of Yakov, Ves Menashe Bismolo Miyamin Yisrael, Vayagesh Elav, and he brings the 2 sons towards Yakov. Now, you understand, a bracha, obviously they're coming to Yakov for the bracha before it, as we've seen in the Torah, that a bracha is a big issue. A bracha is apparently a big issue. Yaakov and Esav fought over a bracha from Yitzchak. And there was only apparently one bracha right before he died. So whatever a bracha is, there's a lot of discussion on. But a bracha from Yaakov, a bracha from Yitzchak, this is going to be a bracha that has eternal ramifications. And the same way that the bracha has ramifications, the hand that goes on your head with the bracha also has ramifications. Right? To us, we don't understand how these things work. And the truth is, we don't understand exactly how, but they did apparently. And they knew that there's something to it. Vayishlach Yisrael es yamino, vayoshes al rosh Ephraim. So what does Yakov do? He takes his right hand and he crosses it over and puts it onto the head of Ephraim, who's on his left. V'hu hatzoir, he's the younger one. Ve'es smolo al rosh Menashe. Then he takes his left hand and puts it on the head of Menashe. Sikel es yodov ki Menashe abechor. Now I'm guessing, without looking, that the art scroll translates sikel as crossed. How does he translate it? He maneuvered his, good word. He maneuvered his hands. Now, most people translate sikel es yodov, he crossed his hands over. Whereas the art scroll translates he maneuvered, because the word sikel comes from the Hebrew word seichel, which is what? Intelligence. That means he's thinking about what he's doing. Yaakov is thinking about what he's doing. So he can't see, right? It says Yaakov can't see very well, but he crosses his hands over, anticipating the fact that Yosef probably put the older one by his right hand and the younger one by his left hand. So Yaakov figures that out and he crosses over in order to get to the younger one. Okay, now watch this. If you look at Pasuk Yudalad carefully, you'll see that there's a little problem here, because it says, Sikel es Yodov, 5 lines from the top, last word, Sikel es Yodov, ki Menashe habechor. He crossed his hands over, he maneuvered his hand, because Menashe is the firstborn. You don't see a problem with that? What's the problem with it?
That normally it's the older child that gets the blessing.
That's the biggest problem. That's the basic problem. That's what's going to bother Yosef. But in the wording of the Parsha here, look at the wording itself, you should have a problem. Listen to what it says. Apply your Gemara heads, guys. He maneuvered his hands, in other words, he crossed his hands, because Menashe is the Bechor.
Start off the other way around. Put them the other way around. You have to go like this.
That's another question. We'll get that in a second. Very good, Chaim. We'll get that in a second. Do you hear a problem if I say he bring Menashe? Look. You know what? Let's go back to the beginning. Look at the beginning of Pasuk Yudalad, 4 lines from the top. Vayishlach Yisrael es yamino vayoshes al rosh Ephraim. He takes his right hand and he puts it on Ephraim's head. Then the Torah tells us he crossed his hands because Menashe is the firstborn.
Why does he have to emphasize that Menashe is the firstborn?
Exactly. In other words, why did he cross it? Did he cross his hands? If you tell me he crossed his hands because Menashe is the firstborn, that makes it sound like he was crossing hands to avoid Menashe. That's not why he was crossing his hands. He wasn't trying to avoid Menashe. What was he trying to do? He's trying to get to Ephraim. He wasn't trying to avoid Menashe. Why does the Torah say he crossed his hands because Menashe is the firstborn? It should have said he crossed his hands because Ephraim's the younger one, because that's what he was trying to do. You hear the problem? You hear the problem, Emil? You hear what's going on over here? So every word of Torah has got to have an explanation, right? Okay. So the answer is like this. Let's go to Chaim's question now. What would have been the most logical thing to do here? What would have been the most logical thing? If Yaakov wants to put the right hand on Ephraim and the left hand on Menashe, not the way Yosef has put them, what would be the most logical thing to do? Guys, could you just switch places? You're in my seat over here. Could you guys, like coming into shul when a guy's sitting in your seat, right? Why not just have them switch places? To that, the Torah, why did Yaakov cross his hands instead of doing the logical thing of having them shift places? And that's what the Torah is answering. Because Menashe is the firstborn. That means you may not be getting the right hand, but as the firstborn, you need to stay on the right side. Because you're going to get some right side energy. You get some right side, whatever, again, we're talking about concepts, so we'll pretend we understand what these concepts are, but whatever that energy is that you get from the right hand, so you're not going to get right hand energy with it, which is level 1 energy, but you got to get level 2 energy. Level 2 energy is he crossed his hands, is answering the question, why not just move them around? Because Menashe is the Bechor, so he needs to stay on the right side. That's one of the approaches. The other approach is, he crossed his hands because Menashe is the Bechor, because to move them around would be embarrassing. Oh, guys, do you mind switching places? You know what? We'll do the next best thing without embarrassing you. And it's embarrassing sometimes. You sit in the seat and say, please get up. You're sitting in his seat. Could you guys switch places? What if I would tell you right now, hey, could you two switch places over here? It's embarrassing. And Menashe is the firstborn. What, you're going to move him over also? You're going to embarrass him? Not only you're not giving him the bracha, you're going to move him over also? So Yakov crosses his hands over. So I have a friend. One of the most remarkable insights that when it comes to dealing with kids. I have a friend who told me, Rabbi Menachem Goldberger is a Rav in Baltimore. And he told me, what's the Torah teaching you over here? You could have moved the kids around. The Torah is teaching you that as a parent, as an educator, as a teacher, as somebody who has any sort of educational influence. As parents, you know what we do? We try to get kids to be the way we want them to be. The Torah is teaching you, don't move the kids to where you want them to be. You have to reach the kids where they are. A very, very penetrating insight. I would love my kid to become a chemist. I want him to become a pharmacist. Yeah, but this kid wants to be a truck driver. He's not interested in going to pharmaceutical school. I would love my kid to have this type of personality, but he doesn't have that personality. He has this type of personality. Nowadays, every time a kid breathes, put him on Ritalin. He's ADHD, ADD, ADHD. What we used to call active, they call Ritalin. Right? Every other guy here is ADD or ADHD, but diagnosed as ADHD. Why? Because somebody decided that if you don't fit this chart, then you're beyond. You're a little too active. I don't know. In our days, the kid, same kid who's ADD or ADHD has no problem sitting through a 3-hour movie without moving. So maybe it's not the kid who's ADHD. Maybe the teacher's boring, and the subject matter is boring. And the kid is not ADHD. He's suicidal because he's got to sit in class for 8 hours listening to boring classes. He's not ADHD. He's SCL. Suicidal. Who told you? All of a sudden, I know the kid's got an active personality. The parents want him. I had a kid once. I knew a guy who got a B in one of his courses in college. He got a B. His parents and his siblings had a correspondence. I saw the correspondence. There were over 100 pages of facts back and forth between the parents and the siblings, almost like a support group, dealing with this calamity of having got a B in one of his courses in college. It was unbelievable. You can't believe it. That this was considered a family calamity because he was supposed to be getting straight A's. And it's not a straight A student. He was a straight A student. Just this one course. What was the parent? No, it's got to be this way. And sometimes people create policies in the home, and one kid doesn't fit that policy because that's not his personality. And you got to realize takes a lot of people to make up a world, and some of them are your own kids. I've seen this, by the way, where parents, father and mother are both disciplined academics, right? And the kid is neither. He's not only an academic, he's not even disciplined. Yeah, what do you want from the kid? So the Torah is teaching you, don't do it. Don't force the kid into the square into the round hole, or what's it called, the round into the square hole. I don't know exactly what I think the square into the round hole. The kid can't be forced. Reach the kid where he is. And that's why the pasuk says in Mishlei, Chanoch lenar al pi darko. You got to train a kid according to his path. It doesn't say Chanoch, train the kid according to your path. Raise him according to his path. Take his energy and channel his energy. I've seen sometimes the kids who are least academic become very successful at what they call success in life, which is making money. They become even more successful than the academics because they take his energy and use his energy, channel his energy. Don't change his energy. You can't change people. You can't change people. You can channel people. That's what Yaakov's teaching you. That's the crossing over to the hand. So Vayevarech is Yosef. He gives Yosef a bracha. And some of the commentaries say that he gave the power, the ability to bless. Not only he blessed Yosef, he gave this ability that Avram had that was given to Yitzchak, that was then given to Yakov, the ability to give a blessing. Vayevarech es Yosef, he gives him the blessing. Vayomar Elokim asher yitzchalchu avosai lefanav Avram Yitzchak Elokim aroz him yodi ad abazeh. The God who has watched over me me'odi ad hayom hazeh, hamalach hagolasi mikora, the malach who has prevented me, watch this, gentlemen, this is the point I want to get to. Yivarech es haneorim, he'll bless these children. V'korei vehem shemi v'shem avosai Avram Yitzchak, the name, my name and the name of my forefathers should be called upon them. V'yidgu larov b'kerev haaretz. They should, the article translates, they should proliferate like fish. B'kerev haaretz, on earth. They should proliferate like fish on earth. What we would call, in verb form, they should fishify. V'yidgu, we don't have one word in English for v'yidgu. V'yidgu is they should be like fish, they should be proliferate like fish. V'yidgu larov, we would call they should fishify. B'kerev haaretz. So the question becomes, there's so much commentary on this, on what does Yakov mean that they should be like fish? They should proliferate like fish. So the most basic idea is what? They should multiply. B'kerev haaretz. Now, again, I ask you, doesn't something about that make you, you find you say, how does the article go? They should be like abundant like fish within the land. Nothing strike you as strange about that?
Fish within the land?
What's strange about that?
Fish are not in land.
Fish are usually in water. Yeah. Fish are water. Most fish that I know are in water. Right? So what does it mean they should be like fish on land? The fish on land is not a good thing. They should be like the fish on land. So there are those that say, well, the same way that fish on land are not in their environment, the Jewish people are always going to be not in their environment because everywhere we go there's anti-Semitism. So we're never in a proper, comfortable environment, except for that short period of time that we had the Beis Hamikdash. The Jewish people have always been in some sort of a unpleasant environment, right? Which we see today, right? It's like anybody attending Harvard University or MIT or Penn has found out that I thought they were on my side. I know somebody. I know somebody who is absolutely crushed emotionally because this is somebody who grew up Harvard, worshiping Harvard. His whole life was Harvard, and also like, what happened over here? I invested my life in Harvard, and all of a sudden, Harvard's not invested in me. So what happened? They betrayed me. And the guy's crushed. He's an older man, a man in his 70s. He's like, my whole life was belief in Harvard. And they betrayed me. So number one, to be like a fish on land means that the Jews are always, the environment around us is always an uncomfortable environment. There's anti-Semitism is always there. No matter where we've gone, it eventually, somebody would say, you don't buy German products. Why? There are people who won't buy German products. Why? Because they were anti-Semites. There was a Holocaust. You don't buy German products. By the same token, you shouldn't buy Spanish products, or English products, or French products, or Muslim products, or any products, right? Because everywhere you've gone, there's been anti-Semitism. So which products do you buy? Oh, Chinese? yeah, but that's not really a product. So what are you going to buy? Made in China. Where are you going to buy products? What kind of products are you going to buy? You understand? So that's one explanation. The other explanation is like this. First of all, let me ask you a question. Why is the comparison to fish? Okay, there's the idea that fish multiply. Fish multiply, fish have, lots and lots of, what do you call it? They got a double bracha from Hashem. At creation and Bereshis, the Torah says the fish got a double bracha because fish were going to be swept out of the sea. People eat more, probably, in certain places in the world, they probably eat more fish than meat. Right? So fish needed an extra bracha because, people go in with nets and just bring out thousands of fish in the fish nets. It's not like, one guy throwing in a hook. The fish industry, they're scooping them out, by the thousands. So they need an extra bracha to proliferate because there's always going to be this idea of limiting them, of hunting the fish. So the fish are going to they need an extra bracha. But when Rav Hirsch says, it just is such a profound insight. Can I ask you a personal question? That's a personal question. Have you ever imagined what it's like to be a bird? You could tell me, we're among friends. Don't be shy. You ever wonder what it's being a bird? I have. You ever kind of like, when nobody's looking, flap your wings and see maybe something will happen? Nobody's around, nobody's looking, try. Or even better, that you take like a couple of pieces of cardboard, where nobody's take big piece of cardboard. I've happened to me. I've been out there taking some boxes out to the garbage. And while I'm at it, I may as well do some experimenting over here and see what happens. Maybe this will be my day. maybe, you kind of flap the cardboard. And you've always wondered, you're stuck in traffic. Boy, I wonder, it would be great if I could fly, right? Did you ever wonder what it's like to be a fish? No, I have. And not only that, I've imagined what it's like to breathe water. You know what happens every time I try to imagine? Like when I do that, nothing happens. I just kind of, people may look at me strange, especially if I'm on a bus and I'm doing like this, so people look at me strange. That happens. But if I ever try to breathe, imagine, I want you to do an experiment now. Imagine, guys, try. I want you to imagine breathing water. I've done it, and I inevitably end up coughing. Like that, which is not so bad, except if I'm doing it on a bus. On my way to Yeshiva, and I'm trying to breathe like that. Hi. Hi. No, I just got something stuck in my throat over here. Why is that? And I always looked at fish. Fish are weird. Let's face it, birds I can imagine, they got two wings. I got arms, I got lower. Fish are just got something strange about fish, right? You see fish swimming back and forth. Every time I look at an aquarium, I see fish swimming back and forth. And I'm just looking at what do you guys do all day? And if he starts here and he goes here, they just kind of swim back and forth. Don't any of you work? And if they're goldfish, you don't want to be a goldfish owned by Jews, right? Jewish goldfish, they have a very short life expectancy, right? Because Jews just feed them over. You're supposed to put in a couple of drops of feed, and you look at it, so just a couple of drops. But Jews don't. The Jews put in chont, everything. Next thing you know, the goldfish are floating on their sides, right? Our goldfish, very, very, they just didn't make it a long time. They just did not make it for a long time. True, right, Baruch? Jewish gold, no, to sell me to anybody, not to Jews. Don't sell, if goldfish could talk, I can imagine the goldfish in the fish store. Please, not to the Jews, What about rednecks? They're going to swallow you alive. No, not them either, where I got, that's the nature of, okay. So Yakov is saying is profound, absolutely profound. I told the guys last night, I was once getting on a plane on the sleeve. I was leaving Los Angeles. So I'm on the sleeve, boarding the plane. So I get a tap. Were you there last night, Tyler? We were at the thing. The guy taps me on the shoulder. He says, "Excuse me, sir." This is going back about 10 years ago. He says, "Excuse me, sir, I'm the pilot. Can I ask you a question?" So I was like starstruck. Wow, the pilot. I said, "Sure." Yeah. What was it? He says, Are there Hasidic Jews outside of New York also? I thought there were only Hasidic Jews in New York. So I said to him, no, there are Hasidic Jews outside of New York also. Not one of them, the black hat that I wear, I am an Orthodox Jew, but I'm not a Hasidic Jew. So he said to me, oh, interesting. He said, I didn't offend you, did I? Now this, I messed up, guys. I messed up because I said to the guy, oh, no, that's perfectly okay. Now what I should have said was, yes, I am deeply offended, and if you'd like to avoid a lawsuit, you should put me in first class for the entire flight. That's one of those moments in life I'd like to have back. I blew it. So the guy, and I just made me realize that you're looking at it. It's not the first thing about Jews. Not the first thing about us. This rabbi was speaking once at a college. So this non-Jewish kid says to him, "Is it true when somebody dies, Jews sit in a cold room?" No, why would you think that? So, well, my mother told me that when somebody dies, Jews sit and shiver. You go, no, Jews don't go in a cold room. Another kid said, "Is it true Jews don't use knives and forks when they eat?" The same rabbi, he said, "No." Why do you think that? He says, "My mother told me Jews eat differently than everybody else." So I figured you don't use knives. I said, no, that's not what it means. The Jews eat differently than everybody else. They're absolutely clueless. There was a lady in Lakewood. A frum lady was in Lakewood in a store in Lakewood, and she saw an African American lady with her kid, and he picked up a candy bar, and the mother said, "Now, Andre, you put that down. It's not kosher." So the frum lady walks over to her and she says, "Oh, I'm sorry, are you Jewish?" She goes, "No." She goes, "Well, I heard you tell your son not to eat the candy bar." She says, "Listen, I come into the store all the time and I see the Jewish mothers, And when their kid picks up a candy bar, she says, now, Avi, you put that down. It's not kosher. And he puts it down. So I figured if it works for Avi, it'll work for Andre also. So they absolutely, absolutely. Okay, but that's very superficial. That's very superficial. If you look in on a Jewish life, and Jews are, in yeshiva, you have a Shabbos. Do you think that people could understand what's really going on at a Shabbos table? You sit at a Shabbos table. You've been there. When you walk into a home and you're at a Shabbos table, there's something happening far beyond food and far beyond the singing. You feel it tangibly. What is it? We can't define it. But there's something that's happening on Shabbos. One of the Roman emperors once said, I think it was to Rabbi Anasi, he said, how come Shabbos food smells so good, tastes so good? So he said to him, we have the food you have on Shabbos, why? Either way, a special ingredient for that food. It's called Shabbos. He said, no, I want some. Let me have some of the ingredients. He said, I'm sorry, only people who keep Shabbos can taste the ingredient. Because there's something happening. If somebody looks in, they're clueless. Imagine what the world was thinking. The world was thinking there was a celebration of the Daf Yomi. They finished the Daf Yomi cycle. So 100,000 people or whatever I was getting, what's it called? What's it called? City Field? What's it called where they had the Daf Yomi? MetLife. How many people were there? 100,000 Jews are there. Could you imagine people wondering, why are these people celebrating finishing a book? Could you imagine? Oh, we're making a siyum on Harry Potter, right? So 100,000 people will be in MetLife because we read the whole series. We finished Encyclopedia Britannica, so there's going to be what are you doing? What is this all about? They tried to explain the Daf Yomi concept to President Ford, President Bush, the son, George. How can you possibly begin explaining it? You can't. You see us, and you look. Here we are. We're right where we got a nose, 2 eyes, ears. We look like everybody else. They understand us, and could relate to us about as much as we could relate to a fish. You see the fish. They're in the water. Can you possibly conceive what's going on in the life of a fish? That's what it means. V'yidgu l'rov b'kerv ha'aretz. The Jewish people are going to proliferate abundantly. You're going to be like a fish on land. You're going to be among all the other nations. They're going to be looking at you, and they can't possibly fathom what's going on in a Jewish life, in a Torah life. They see what you're doing, and they can't possibly imagine what's going on. Listen, I travel. I know. I put on my talis and my tefillin on airplanes, and people try not to stare. They're staring. I walk in the airport. Look, I try to be as discreet about it, but it's kind of hard. Even if I'm standing in a corner of an airport room, what do you call it? The airport hall. Even if you're trying to be as discreet as possible, when you got a cape, a striped cape with what do you call it? You're wrapping leather on your hand with a striped cape. It's hard to be discreet. Try to be discreet as possible. But, people are kind of walking by like that. They're trying not to stare. Nowadays, nobody looks because everybody's busy with their phone. So they took a little of the pressure off. Could they possibly imagine what's going on? Possibly imagine what's happening? That's what Yakov says. You'll be like fish. You'll be like the fish on land. That the same way that nobody can relate to us, that's how you can't relate to fish. That's how people are going to see us. That's the bracha. More than that, the Yidgu l'rov b'kerv ha'aretz means, what is Torah compared to? What's Torah? What liquid is Torah? Torah is compared to water. Why is Torah compared to water? Because water is the most basic source of life. You can survive without food. You can't survive without water for too long. Fish are in water. A Torah Jew, you have to be connected to Torah study. But you can't study Torah full time. Some people study in kollel. But even somebody in kollel, you also have to be involved, and certainly it's a person who's a working person. You can be a fish, but sometimes you're out of the water because you have to go to work, and you have to make a parnasa, and you have to work as an accountant or whatever it is that you do. V'yidgu l'rov b'kerv ha'aretz, you'll be like fish even when you're on land. Even when you're away from the Gemara, even when you're away from the Torah study, when you're on land, when you're involved in your worldly pursuits, you'll still be that fish that came from the water. That means that the Torah values are going to be taken with you even when you're in the workforce, even when you're pursuing the material needs that you have, b'kerv ha'aretz, the material pursuits that everybody has, even then you'll be like the fish that just came out of water. What's Yosef's reaction to all of this? Vayar Yosef ki yoshis aviv yad yamino al rosh Ephraim. Yosef sees that his father has put his right hand on Ephraim's head. Vayera be'enov. He's not happy about that. Vayitmoch yad aviv lahasro sameh al rosh Ephraim al rosh Menashe. He tries to pick his father's hand up and move it from Ephraim's head to put it on Menashe. Why is Yosef upset about this?
He wants his firstborn to be blessed.
That's certainly true.
Brothers don't hate each other.
Take it further. Why is Yosef upset about this? Yosef knows what happens when you favor a younger son over older sons. Yosef knows it very well because Yosef's been through it. Yosef is, can you imagine? Yosef sees this happening. Yosef's thinking, oh no, here we go again. Oh boy, here we go again. Vayomer Yosef alaviv lo chaydavi, no, my father, ki zeh bechor, sim yamincha al rosho. Now this begs a major question. Now you're going to have to turn on your Gemara heads over here. Yosef saw, what does he say? He said, no, Dad, he's the firstborn. The one on the right's the firstborn. Now hold on a second. Did Yosef see his father cross his hands? He saw his father cross his hands. So he knows that Yakov knows who the firstborn is, because otherwise he wouldn't be crossing his hands. So you understand the problem over here? Yosef says, no, put it on him, he's the firstborn. Understand, you saw that Yakov did this intentionally. He obviously did it intentionally. Because Yakov crossed his hands, so he knows what he's doing. Seek Elis Yad. The Torah says he did it with forethought. So why Yosef thinks Yaakov's making a mistake over here? Understand? How could Yosef possibly think Yaakov's making a mistake? Yosef saw that he crossed his hands. If he crossed his hands, he's doing something intentionally. People don't accidentally cross their hands. It's not like you've been in a house for Shabbos where people give their kids brachas. You ever see a father do like this? Let me give you the bracha like this. No, nobody does it. So he sees Yaakov Avinu's crossing his hands. No, Dad, you're making a mistake over here. He's obviously not making a mistake. He knows exactly what he's doing. So what do you say, Emil?
He's trying to correct him, but not embarrass him at the same time.
So there is but why does he even think he needs to be corrected? You only correct somebody who's made a mistake. If I would say Yaakov Avinu would say, hey, Ephraim, and he's talking to Menashe, I'd say, by the way, you're making a mistake. He's not. Why would he even think? You only correct the mistake, right? Or your wife corrects you even when you're right. But you only correct people if they made a mistake. You correct people if they're right. You don't correct people if they know what they're doing. You correct people why would you think you make a mistake? He obviously knows what he's doing. You're the problem. So why is he trying to correct them? So I saw one commentator say, no. Yosef thought that Yaakov thought that Yosef loaded them up the way it would require to crossing the hands. In other words, Yosef thought that Yakov thought that when Yosef brought them over, Yosef took Menashe, the older one, in his own right hand and load. In other words, let me do this slowly. Yosef brought the kids over to Yakov. The Torah said he put Ephraim in his right hand and Menashe in his left hand, in order that they should end up on the right and left of Yaakov Avinu the way it should be, so that Menashe is on the right of Yaakov Avinu. Yosef thought, when he saw Yaakov crossing his hands, Yosef thought that Yosef actually put the older one in his own right hand and the younger one in his left hand and loaded them up like that so that Yaakov's crossing over to get to the older one. Yosef thought that Yaakov thought that this is what he needs to do to get to the older one. So Yosef was saying to Yaakov, no, Dad, I didn't do that. I took the younger one in my right hand, and the older one, they're loaded up the way they're supposed to be. You don't need to cross your hands. So what's Yaakov's reaction? Vayemoin aviv. Yaakov refuses. Vayomer yadati b'ni yadati. I know that you didn't do what you think I think that you did. Or something like that. Yaakov's telling Yosef, I know exactly what I'm doing. Now you notice he says Yadati twice. Yadati b'ni, I know, yadati. Why does he say yadati twice? The emphasize, that's what sometimes say, I know. That's what I'm saying. But yet this is Yaakov Avinu, so he's got something else in mind. Certainly that. Yadati b'ni yadati. That certainly emphasizes that I know. What's Yaakov? How many times have we seen that the older one is placed ahead of the younger one's placed ahead of the older one, and it had negative results? Where have we seen it? Yaakov and Esav, and Yaakov say, Yadati b'nei, I know about both times. I know about what happened with me and my brother, I know what's happened with you and your brothers. And nevertheless, over here it's going to be different. And what's the proof? Because he gives them a bracha, and then he says, bottom of the page, Vayevorchem vayomu leimor b'cho yevorech Yisrael leimor Yesimcha Elokim ke'Ephraim v'Menashe. Did you guys ever wonder, you got a house for Shabbos, and they bless the children. What's the bracha to the boys? If you were making up the bracha for boys at a Jewish house, what would you make the bracha for the boys? The Hashem should make you like who? Either Avram, Yitzchak, and Yakov, Moshe and Aaron, Dovid HaMelech, there's something. How did Ephraim and Menashe get into the picture here? And what's the bracha to the women, to the girls? Hashem should make you like Sarah, Rivka, Lachel, Leah. So, I mean, what would you, like you say, I make, the bracha to the children should be Avram, Yitzchak, Yakov. Okay, that's a problem because there are three of them. Okay, I make you like Moshe and Aaron. Got other people. How did Ephraim and Menashe jump into the picture over here? You give the bracha, you should be like Ephraim and Menashe. Why should you be like Ephraim and Menashe? Why'd that be? Okay, so the standard answer is because that's the bracha that Yakov gave, was you should be like Ephraim and Menashe. Well, why? Why was that the bracha that we give? We can make up a bracha. Didn't say anywhere you should be like Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. Yet that's the bracha we give to the girls. So why do we give that bracha? What do you say?
Is it because they were in Mitzrayim, which was a very unholy place, but they still came out as... Excellent.
So one of the commentaries says that that's one of the brachas that we give to our children. Ephraim and Menashe were in Mitzrayim and they came through. All the others were in a suitable environment. Avram Avinu did it on his own, but Yitzchak was raised by Avram, and Yaakov was raised by both of them, and then you have the tribes, everything else. Ephraim and Menashe, where the bracha to the children is, regardless of what's going on around you, you should turn out to be good Jews. That's one of the explanations. The other explanation is what bothers parents more, perhaps almost as much as anything else, is when the kids don't get along. When your own children don't get along, that bothers you, what they call sibling rivalry. It bothers parents there. We want the families to get along. By the way, one of the best ways for kids to get along is for families in general, not to live in such close proximity to each other. It's good that there should be a little bit of distance between them. It's not good to live 2 houses away from each other. Sometimes it's good for, live on the next block, live in the next, 20 minutes away by car. That's one of the benefits of couples getting married. From couples get married, they come to live in Israel. For the first year, they live in Israel. It's very healthy. Couples should be away from both sides, both parents. Let the couple learn to develop on their own without the parents mishing in. And by the way, that's one of the pitfalls of cell phones. That a girl gets married and every 5 minutes she's on the phone with her mother. Usually when we got married, we were living in Israel. You didn't call home every 5 minutes. It cost money. It cost in those days, it cost like $3 a minute on the phone. I'd call home. When I went to Yeshiva the first time when I was 18, I came to Israel, and I'd call home. Once in 3 weeks, I called home. My mother would get on the phone, hi, how's everything? In the background, my father's already, okay, it's costing money over here. My father would get on the phone and say, hi, how you doing? That's great, click. And never even got the answer. It was money, your clock is ticking. Nowadays, you talk all day, you got a phone and you're talking, so the girl's talking, so there's no detachment. Part of the growth is by being detached. Families also, a little bit of distance is healthy. You want to be around families together. A little bit, you're sitting on each other. You're chapping each other. It's not the best thing in the world. The idea is much better than the idea of it is much better than the actual, it's like family get-togethers. Family get-togethers are great for about 7 minutes. After about 10 minutes, it's parv. And after about 15 minutes, it's fleshik. Let's go home. It was great. It was great, right? True or not true? And for a few minutes, it's good. For a few minutes, for a little while, it's good. But too much is, everybody. Let's head for our home base again. So one of the commentaries said the reason that we give the bracha is here. we never find resentment on Ephraim's part. The first time it happened, Esav was a sore loser. The second time it happened, the brothers were jealous. Ephraim is promoted above Menashe. We never find any backlash from Menashe. And therefore, the bracha we give to our children is that you should get along. You seem like Ephraim and Menashe, you should get along like Ephraim and Menashe get along. That's the ultimate bracha to the children. There should be no jealousy, should no animosity between the brothers. That's the bracha. Okay, we'll call it a day, gentlemen.